So today, we're going to dive into something pretty deep. We're going to talk about the psychology of people who've really truly been through it. We're going to get past the surface level stuff to understand how these intense experiences don't just leave scars. They can completely rewire a person's entire way of being in the world. You know who I'm talking about, right? That person who has this really dark sense of humor, who can crack a joke right in the middle of a crisis, a situation that would honestly make most of us just completely fall apart. It might seem a little weird, a little off, but a lot of the time, that's a clue. It's a sign that they have navigated storms that most of us can't even begin to imagine. And really, this is the heart of what we're getting into today. From the outside, you might see a joker, someone who seems kind of insensitive or just strange. But what's actually happening under the hood? You're looking at a survivor, someone who is actively taking power back from their pain. It's not a flaw, it's a completely different operating system, one that was built to handle a threat level that, thankfully, most of us never have to deal with. Yeah, let's really unpack that idea of a different operating system. We have this tendency to think of trauma as something that just breaks a person. But what if that's not the right way to look at it? A much more accurate way to see it is that it trains them. It literally rewires their brain for one thing above all else: survival. I love this quote because it just completely flips the script, doesn't it? It reframes this whole story from one of damage to one of incredible adaptation. Their brain has become this finely tuned expert, a masterpiece of survival, that's now just trying to figure out how to live in a world where the constant danger is gone. But all that programming, it's still running in the background. Okay, and this is where things get really fascinating, because this rewiring leads to some outcomes you would just never expect. The very pain that should have destroyed them can end up forging these incredible, almost paradoxical strengths. I mean, that's the logical assumption, isn't it? You would think they'd build walls so high nobody could ever get in. You'd expect them to be cynical, to shut the world out just to stay safe. And look, sometimes that does happen. But very often, something far more profound takes place. And here it is, our first major paradox. Instead of shutting down, they open up in this really unique way. They develop what you could almost call an aggressive empathy. And the reason is actually pretty simple. They've memorized the language of pain. They are fluent in it, and they can spot it in someone else from a mile away. And this isn't some vague, fuzzy feeling. No, it's a highly tuned skill set. They hear the tiny, almost imperceptible shift in your tone of voice. They can read the quality of a silence. Is it a comfortable silence, or is it an angry one? They can walk into a room and just feel the emotional temperature. They are absolutely fluent in the nonverbal cues of human suffering. You know, there's actually a formal psychological term for this whole thing. It was pioneered by a psychologist named Richard Tedeschi, and it's called post-traumatic growth. The key idea here is that people don't just bounce back to who they were before. They often bounce forward. They develop a deeper appreciation for life, stronger relationships, and a whole new perspective. And this is not some rare phenomenon. According to Tedeschi's research, about half to two-thirds of people who go through a major trauma report some kind of positive growth afterward. It's incredible. They find new meaning, their priorities totally shift, and their appreciation for something as simple as a sunset can become incredibly intense. But, and this is a really important but, these strengths, they don't exist in a vacuum. They often come with a shadow side, a constant, humming, underlying state of high alert. This is called hypervigilance. It's the echo of past danger, still ringing in the present. It's why they might always need to sit facing the door in a restaurant. It's why they might make 17 backup plans for a simple coffee date. This isn't paranoia. It's a nervous system that learned, the hard way, that safety is a luxury, not a guarantee. The off switch for their threat detection system is basically broken. Now, this state of high alert creates one of the most interesting paradoxes you'll ever see when it comes to control. See, they've learned that the big things in life, the really big stuff, are often completely out of their hands. So a massive life crisis, they can be eerily calm. It's just another Tuesday. But the small stuff, the things they can control, oh, that becomes everything. Choosing a coffee mug isn't about coffee. It's about having agency over one tiny piece of their world. So you see, it's just impossible to put these folks in a single box. They are walking contradictions. They've learned to hold two opposing truths at the same time. That life is both beautiful and brutal. That people are both incredibly kind and incredibly cruel. They hold that entire messy complexity inside themselves. So what happens when you take this complex internal world and try to form relationships? Well, it has a massive impact. There's often this deep, really confusing push and pull when it comes to getting close to other people. You can almost see it as a cycle. On one hand, they crave connection on a really profound level. But their past has taught them that depending on someone can be dangerous, that getting close can lead to pain. So as you get closer to them, their nervous system doesn't relax, it braces for impact. And that often causes them to pull back, to retreat to the one place they know is safe, self-reliance. And this is the really poignant, kind of heartbreaking results of that cycle. They develop this incredible capacity to be self-sufficient. They can handle absolutely anything on their own. And yeah, that sounds like a superpower, but it's a defense mechanism. It's born from this deep-seated belief that relying on anyone else is just too big a risk. It's a strength that can also be profoundly lonely. And that brings us to the deepest, most rarely talked about part of this whole experience. Because underneath all the strength and the empathy and the paradoxes, there is this quiet, persistent grief. But this isn't the kind of grief we usually talk about. It's not about losing a loved one. It's the grief for the person they might have been. The version of them that trusted easily, that didn't have to scan every room for threats. The one who didn't know the crushing weight of a heavy silence. And how do you even begin to talk about that? It's this almost impossible feeling to put into words. You're mourning a version of yourself that didn't have to be a survivor. A self that maybe only existed in a few quiet moments before the storm hit. It's a special kind of homesickness, isn't it? You're not homesick for a house or a town. You're homesick for a state of being, a feeling of internal safety, a lightness, an innocence you just didn't get to fully experience. And ultimately, that's what it is. It's a grief for a certain softness, a tenderness that the world forced them to trade for armor, just so they could endure. But, and this is the most important part, this grief, it doesn't break them. It shapes them. It transforms them into something incredibly powerful. They become a lighthouse. And their light doesn't shine because their life was easy or perfect. No, it shines because they know the darkness. They learned to navigate storms that would have absolutely wrecked other people. And now, they guide the way. So the next time you meet someone who seems a little too comfortable with chaos or a little too quick with a dark joke, just remember the lighthouse. Their wisdom was earned, not given. And maybe ask yourself, who in your life is a lighthouse? Who shines not in spite of their past storms, but because of them?